Hey beautiful people, I'm Tessie and this space is Victorian Ribbons, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to draft a half scale basic bodice block. Now whether you're trying to make a peplum blouse or a gown that is gathered at the waist, you would need to start from a half scale basic bodice block. So let's jump right into this video. So first, the measurement you're going to be needing is your shoulder width measurement. Now how do you take your shoulder width measurement? You would have to find a point where your shoulders connect with your arm. And how do you do this? You just raise your arm up just like this, and then you find that point where it connects, where there's a joint. So you note that part down, and then you take your tape, you place it on one side of your shoulder where it connects with your arm, where your shoulder connects with your arm. Locate that point and just place your tape there, and then you take it to the other side, the opposite side of where your shoulder and your arm connects, just like this. See what it looks like from the side and from this other side. So you record whatever you have. So the next measurement you would need to take is your shoulder to bust measurement, which is also known as your bust point. So how do you do this? First, you need to find the highest point of your shoulder, which is just where your neck starts, just somewhere here. So you find that point, and then you place your tape measure here, your measuring tape here, and then you take it to the fullest part of your bust. See what I did? Take it to the fullest part of your bust, and then you record what you have there. The next measurement you would need to take is your shoulder to waist measurement. Now I need you to note something down. Your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back is not going to be the same value. And you know why? It's because you have bust in front, but you don't have, obviously there's nothing at the back. Your back is flat and kind of hollow somewhere around your waist. So you're going to be taking your shoulder to waist for the front, separate from your shoulder to waist at the back. How are we going to achieve this? Don't worry, I'll show you. So what you need to do is you would need to tie a band around your waist. You need to tie a band around your waist. But before tying a band around your waist, you need to find your true waist. And how do you do this? What you need to do is, I'm just going to step back a little bit. You just bend, just stand, and then you bend a little bit. When you bend, there's this part of your waist that goes in, that goes inside, on the side of your waist. You note that part, and then you tie around that area. All right. You do this. Follow the curve of your body. See what I'm doing? Follow the curve of your body from your bust down, under bust, all the way to that band you tied on your waist. See what I did? Then you record what you have there. That is your shoulder to front waist measurement. Okay, so you can see the band. So you just take, there's this bone at the back of your neck. There's a bone at the back of your neck, just somewhere here. If you feel the back of your neck, you feel this bone. When you bend a little bit, you'll feel this bone at the back of your neck. So from that bone, you start your measurement from there. You place your tape on that bone and take it all the way to this band. See what I did? So that's your shoulder to back waist measurement. That's how to take your shoulder to back waist measurement. You measure from that bone on your neck. That bone is a prominent bone on your neck, all the way to the band on your waist at the back, and then you record the value you have there. You want to take your front shoulder to waist measurement and also take your back shoulder to waist measurement, because these figures are going to be different. Sometimes it's 1.5 inches, sometimes 2 inches, sometimes 3 inches, depending on the individual. So you definitely want to take these two separate measurements. So the next measurement we are going to be needing is our bust circumference measurement. And how are we going to take this? Just simply find the fullest part of your bust, and then you take your tape. When you're taking this measurement, you want to make sure that your client is wearing the bra that they will usually wear, okay? And then also they would want to be wearing a garment that is fitted. They shouldn't be wearing something like this, so that you take the measurement as close to the body as possible so that it can be accurate, okay? So this is what you do. You find the fullest part of your bust, and then you hold your tape. Make sure there's one finger in between your body and in between your body and the tape, the measuring tape. Okay, and also make sure that the tape is not falling at the back. You can see, right? Good. So this is how to take your bust circumference measurement. The next measurement you're going to be needing is our waist circumference measurement. So once again, you want to find your true waist just by bending slightly, tilting to the side a little bit, and then you just measure around that, putting one finger in between once again. Okay, it's important to put one finger in between so that when you make the garments, it's not too tight, it's just perfect. So this is how to take your waist circumference measurement. So you take that measurement and you record it. Okay, so that's all that's for the measurements we're going to be needing. So let's jump right into drafting our pattern. So these are the measurements that I'm going to be working with. I have my bust circumference, which is 37, waist circumference 28, bust point, that is my shoulder to bust measurement, that is 11, shoulder to waist front 18, shoulder to waist back 15, shoulder width 15. So when drafting your own pattern, you would want to use your own measurement, of course, or the measurement of whoever you are making the garment for. So this is my own measurement, and this is what I'll be using for this tutorial. So now these are the materials that we're going to be working with. I have my ruler, I have my paper, of course, and I'm just going to show you the width of my paper. The width of my paper is about 22.5, and the length is about 24 inches. Okay, so this is what I'll be working with. So I'll be using my measuring tape, of course, my pencil, my ruler, and my curves, different curves depending on which one I'm going to need. And I have my tracing wheel, I have my scissors for cutting paper, I have my marker and my pen as well. So let's get to work. So first I will start by drawing my top margin. Okay, just the margin at the top. There's no particular measurement for this, you just use your discretion. So this here, right here, is my margin at the top, and I'm going to be calling it, I'm going to label it SH, or I'll be calling it my shoulder line. So let's call this SH. Okay, so next I'm going to be drawing a margin also on my left side, on my left hand side. Okay, so I'm also not going to be using any particular measurement. I will just use my discretion. Maybe I will just leave like about half of an inch for the margin. Okay, so now that's our margin by the left hand side, and this line I'm going to be calling it CB, or our center back. Okay, so I'm just going to label this CB, and when you see CB, you know I'm talking about the center back. Okay, so we'll also have to do a margin on this right hand side. So in order for us to make this margin on the right hand side, we're going to pick up the largest circumference measurement which we have, and in this case the largest circumference measurement we have is our bust circumference measurement, and that is 37 inches. So what we're going to do now is we're going to divide 37 by 2. Okay, 37 divided by 2 is 18.5, and then I'm going to add 2 inches allowance. Okay, so that when I draft my front bodice and my back bodice, it's not going to overlap. Okay, so that's why I'm adding that 2 inch extra 2 inch for ease. Okay, so that it doesn't overlap into each other. Okay, so we're going to do that. So I'll divide my bust by 2, that's 18.5, then I'll add 2 inches. So 18.5 plus 2 inches will give me 20.5. So I'm just going to impute that here. Okay, so this is my 20.5 here. I'm just going to mark it on several points. I'm starting from my CB, okay, to measure. My CB, I measure towards my right, okay. So your back bodice should be on your left hand side, while your front body should be on your right. So I'm going to start from my CB to measure 20.5. And remember, we got 20.5 by dividing our bust circumference measurement by 2 and then adding 2 inches to it. Okay, so I'm just going to mark 20.5 on about 3 points. Okay, so now I'll take my ruler and then I'll connect. Okay, okay, so that's the line. So I'm going to label this CF, or center front. So when you see CF, you know I'm talking about my center front. Okay, so I'm going to call this CF, which stands for center front. We're going to go ahead to do our necklines. Let's start with our front neckline. So for our front neckline, we are going to use our neck width of 3 inches. Okay, starting from our CF line. Okay, you measure towards that's on the shoulder line. You start from your CF line and go this way. You mark 3 inches as width. This is a standard. Okay, so let's mark 3 inches for our neck width, and also 3 inches for our neck depth. So 3 inches neck width, 3 inches neck depth for the front. Okay, so that's it. So now I'm going to get one of my curves, and then I'm just going to curve it. Okay, so that's our neck, our front neck. So now we're going to do our back neck. Okay, so for our back neck, we're going to be using 3 inches as width. Also 3 inches is going to be our width, so I'm just going to mark that. So that's a width of 3 inches, and then for the depth, we are going to be using 1 inch as the depth. Okay, so that's the depth. So now to make the curve for the back neckline, this is what we're going to do. I'm just going to take my ruler and I'll draw a line like this and another like this. Then I'll get one of my curves, whichever works for me. Okay, and then I'm just going to try to make a curve, a nice neat looking curve on my back neckline, using those lines as a guide. Okay, so that's my back neck. So I'm just going to clean off these lines. And then I'll define these necklines with my marker so that you can see them clearly. Start with the front. So that's my front neckline. I've defined it properly, and also my back neckline. I'm just going to do the same for the back. Okay, so I've clearly defined my front neckline and my back neckline. So now we're going to go ahead to impute our shoulder measurement. Okay, so our shoulder measurement, like I told you earlier, is our shoulder width is 15 inches. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my shoulder measurement, my shoulder width, which is 15 inches, and I'm going to divide it by 2. Okay, so my shoulder width measurement is 15. So when you divide 15 by 2, that will give you 7.5. Okay, so I'm going to take that 7.5. So starting from my center back, I'm going to start from here. I will measure from here to wherever 7.5 gets to, and I'm going to mark it. So watch me do that. So this is my center back line. So I'll start from that line, and then I would mark 7.5. Okay, so this right here is 7.5. You see that? So I'm also going to come to my front on the front side of my bodice, and from the center front line here, right, I'm going to also mark 7.5. Okay, good. So now what we're going to do next is we're going to mark our shoulder slope. Now we're going to start with the back shoulder slope. So the back shoulder slope, for the back shoulder slope, we're going to be using 1 inch. Okay, so I'm going to start from here, this shoulder line, and I will place my measuring tape like this, and I'll measure 1 from this shoulder line. Okay, so I'll measure 1 here, and I'm just going to note it. Okay, I've marked it. So that's 1 inch. So now I'm going to connect from the side of my neckline, back neckline, to this 1 inch shoulder slope which I just marked. Okay, so I'll just connect it so that you can see. Okay, so that's it. So this is the back shoulder slope. I came down from this shoulder line by 1 inch. Okay, on the point where I marked my shoulder width. Okay, I came down by 1 inch. So next thing I'm going to do now is I'll just take my marker to define it. I'll just define it with my marker so that you can see it clearly. Okay, so that's my back shoulder slope. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is to also do our front shoulder slope. So for our front shoulder slope, we're going to be coming down by 1.5 inches. We'll come down by 1.5. So on that point where I marked my shoulder width divided by 2, which is here in the front, I'm just going to come down by 1.5. Okay, this is 1.5. So now I'm going to connect, just like I did for the back, I'm going to connect the side of my neckline to this shoulder slope in front. So this is what I will do. So that's my front shoulder slope. I'm going to define it once more with my marker so that you can see that line clearly. Okay, so now we have our front shoulder slope. We came down in front for the front shoulder slope, we came down by 1.5, and for the back we came down by 1. Please do not forget this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing now is we are going to be calculating our armhole length, the length for our armhole. So to do this, we are going to take our bust circumference measurement. Okay, our bust circumference measurement is 37. Okay, so we're going to take 37 divided by 6, then we'll add 1.5. So to get your armhole length, you take your bust circumference measurement, you divide by 6, and then you add 1.5. So when I took my bust circumference measurement, which is 37, divided it by 6, and I added 1.5, I got 7.6. So now I'm going to take that number 7.6, and I'm going to impute it here on my back armhole. Okay, starting from my back shoulder slope. So here's what I'm going to do. Starting from my back shoulder slope, I will just measure 7.6, which I got as my armhole length. Okay, I'm just going to note it somewhere there. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'll take my pencil and ruler, and I'm going to draw a line to connect this shoulder slope to this armhole length mark which I made. Okay, so let me do that. See what I did? So I've connected a line from my my shoulder slope at the back to that armhole length mark. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do now is I'm also going to draw the line, the same line for my front armhole. Okay, but to do that I would have to measure what I have. I would measure what I have here. Okay, starting from this shoulder line, measure what I have from this shoulder line to that armhole length mark. So I have 8.6. Okay, so I'm just going to transfer that measurement to my front armhole, and here's how I'm going to do it. So I'll start from this shoulder line. Okay, and I'll measure 8.6. 8.6, then I'm going to mark it, right? So now I'm going to draw a line now that connects from this front shoulder slope to this point which I just marked. Okay, so watch me do that. Okay, so that's the armhole line for the front side of my bodice. So now I'm going to be drawing another line. Okay, and that's a line that is going to cut through across underneath this armhole line. It's going to run from my CB to my CF, just under the armhole lines which I just drew. Okay, so watch me do it, please. So I'm just going to place my ruler like this. Okay, so this line right here is my chest line, so I'm going to label it CH. Okay, so this is CH for the front, and this right here is CH for the back. So the next thing we want to do now is to make a curve, okay, for our armhole, because our armhole is not supposed to be straight, of course, so we need to curve it. So how do we do this? The first thing I'm going to do, I'll start with my back armhole, and the first thing I'll do is I am going to measure what I have on my back armhole line, which is 7.6. We saw that earlier already. So I'm going to take 7.6 and then I'm going to divide it by 2 by folding my tape, my measuring tape, like this. Okay, so I'm going to place that back on that line, on that armhole line at the back, and then I'm going to mark that folded part. Okay, so that folded part now is the midpoint of my armhole. Alternatively, you could take the measurement you get on this line, use your calculator and divide it by 2. Okay, whatever you get, you mark it here. That is still the midpoint of your armhole. Okay, so now we've gotten the midpoint of this back armhole. So the next thing we'll do is on this midpoint I'll be going in by half of an inch. Okay, so this is what I would do. I would mark half of an inch here. Okay, so now I'm going to take a curve. I'll use any suitable curve I like, and then I would draw my armhole, make my armhole curve. Okay, so I will define this armhole curve now with a marker so that you can see it clearly. Okay, so that's my armhole clearly marked. So now let's also make a curve for our front armhole. Okay, so to make a curve for our front armhole, what we're going to do is we're also going to measure what we have on this front armhole line, and then we're going to divide it by 2. So let me do that. So on this front armhole I have 7.1, so I'll take what I have and I'll divide it into 2, just the way I did the first time with the back armhole. Then I'll note the folded part of my tape, then I'll mark it. So this is the midpoint of my front armhole. However, unlike my back armhole, I'm not going to be coming in here by half of an inch. And here is my reason. Your arms tend to move more towards the front. So you need more ease, allowance for ease in the front than at the back. So for this reason, I'll be using 0.75 here instead of 0.5. Okay. So we're just going to mark 0.75 here, or what you would call a quarter of an inch. Okay. 3/4 of an inch, sorry, what you call 3/4 of an inch. I'll be coming in here by what is called 3/4 of an inch or 0.75. So now, just like I did for the front, for the back, I'll take my curve and I will just draw my armhole. Okay, so that's my armhole curve for the front. I'll define it with my marker. Now we're going to impute our shoulder to bust measurement. Okay, and we're going to be doing that on the front side of my bodice. Okay, so measure shoulder to bust. My shoulder to bust, as I showed you earlier, is 11. Okay, 11 inches. So I would measure from my shoulder line here and I'll mark 11 inches. 11, I'll mark it on about 2 points and 11. Okay, so now I'm just going to connect these lines. So this is our bust point line or bust line. So I'll just label it BL. Okay, BL is bust line. So the next measurement I'm going to impute is my shoulder to front waist measurement. My shoulder to front waist, as I told you earlier, is 18. So I'll just measure from the shoulder. Okay, so now I've gone ahead to mark my shoulder to bust line. Okay, and I labeled it BL. So my shoulder to bust, like I told you earlier, was 11. So I marked from this SH line. From this SH line, I measured 11. Okay, as you can see, I measured 11 and then I marked it and then I drew this line. Okay, then I also went ahead to draw my shoulder to back waistline. Sorry, this is my shoulder to bust point. Okay, shoulder to bust point. Now this is my shoulder to back waistline, and that was 15. So I marked from this shoulder line here, this line, this margin. I measured and I got 15. Okay, so my shoulder here to my back waistline is 15. Okay, so I drew this line. Okay, so I also measured my shoulder to my front waistline, and that was 18. Okay, so from this margin here, this top margin here, I went ahead to measure 18. Right, so this is 18. This is where it fell, and then I drew this line. So you know how I got these lines now. Okay, so let's proceed. Sorry, I noticed my camera wasn't recording when I did all the lines, so that's why I'm taking my time to explain how I got all these lines. Okay, so next we're going to be doing our darts. Now, to do our darts, we're going to have to determine our bust span measurement. So how do we determine our bust span measurement? To determine our bust span measurement, we simply take our bust circumference measurement, we divide it by 4, and then we subtract 1.5, and that gives us our bust span measurement. So when I took my own bust circumference measurement, which is 37, I divided it by 4. and I got 9.25. So 9.25 minus 1.5, that gave me 7.75. Okay, now that is my bust span measurement. So now, in order to impute that bust span measurement here, I would have to divide it into 2 again. So 7.75 divided by 2 gives me 3.875. And this figure is close to 4, right? This value is close to 4. So I just approximate it to 4. So I'll be imputing 4 here. So see what I'll do. So from this center back, I would mark 4 inches on this chest line for the back. Okay. Now, on the back waistline, I would also be marking 4 inches from the center back. So this is 4. Now, the next thing I will do is I will take my ruler and then I'll connect these 2 points. So now what I'm going to do is, on this back waistline, on this side of this line, I would mark half of an inch. So here I'll mark half of an inch. And also on the other side, I would mark half of an inch. So now I have half of an inch marked on both sides of this line. So what I'll do is I'll connect these 3 points, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So watch me do that, please. So that's our darts for the back. So I'll just use a marker to define it. So that's our darts for the back. So now let's come to the front. We also want to do our darts for the front. So for the front, we are not going to be starting on the chest line for the darts. We are going to be using the bust line. Okay. So on the bust line now, this is what we will do. I'm going to be moving away from my CF by the same 4 inches. Okay, so I'll mark 4 inches here. And also, on the front waistline, I will be moving away from the CF by 4 inches also. So next, I'm going to connect these 2 lines. Okay, so now, on this line, I'm going to be coming down from the bust line by 1 inch, right? So I would mark 1 inch here, and then on the waistline here, on both sides, I'll be moving away by 0.75. Now, I like to use 0.75 because it tends to give more fitting to the garment when I use 0.75. However, if you wish to, you could as well use half of an inch, just like we did for the back. Okay, so I would use 0.75. Here and here. So now I'm going to connect these 3 points. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, so that's my darts for the front. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to contour my back. Okay, so the reason why I'm contouring my back is to avoid any excess fabric when you make the garment. Okay, so we need to contour the back of our garment so that there will be no excesses whatsoever, especially when you fix zippers. You notice that sometimes when you fix a zipper on your dress, the back of your garments, it tends to bulge. So to avoid all those excesses and that bulge, it's good to contour the back of your fabric. So to contour the back of your fabric, you could use as much as 1 inch or as little as half of an inch. Okay, so personally I like to use 1 inch because it gives me just the fitting I like. So to contour, here's what I'm going to do. On this back waistline, I would come in by 1 inch from the CB. Okay, so from this back neck, I would come down by 3 inches. Okay, and I'll mark it. Notice what I did. So now I'm going to connect this point and this point here. Okay, this 1 inch point that I measured away from my CB. So I'm going to connect those 2 points. So you see what I did? Okay. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to impute my body measurement to this pattern. So let's start with the back bust. So for the bust at the back, I'm going to take my bust circumference measurement, which is 37, and I'm going to divide it by 4. 37 divided by 4 is 9.25. Now I'm going to place that measurement on the chest line. Watch what I'm going to do. And also notice where I start taking my measurement from. Okay, to take my bust measurement at the back, I'm starting from here, this new line, this new contour line. I'm not starting from my CB. Okay, this CB line is no longer valid once you contour your back. Okay, this CB line at this point is no longer useful to you, so you start your measurement from here. Okay, so I'm starting my measurement from here, and then I'll be marking 9.25. right? So I'll mark 9.25 here. Then I'll also take my waist measurement divided by 4. So my waist circumference measurement divided by 4, my waist circumference measurement is 28. When I divide it by 4, what I get is 7. So notice how I'm going to mark that 7. Okay, so I'll start from here. Do you see where I started from? Here, like here. Not here. You start from here, and I measure all the way to this point where my dart starts. Okay, so I note on my tape where that dart starts, and I hold it and I take it here and place the tape here. Okay, and I continue my measurement, right? And I mark 7. Okay, let me do it again. I start here, right? I start here. Then I note where my dart starts. Okay, I note it on my tape. I hold it, and I bring it to the other side of my dart, where my dart ends, and I continue my measurement, and I mark 7. Okay, so that's important because you do not want to add this is no longer part of your pattern, so you do not want to add that to your measurement. And also this dart, all these parts of this dart is not going to be part of your measurement. You're either going to cut it out or you're going to sew it in when you're making your fabric. So you do not want all of this to be part of your measurement. So when you measure here, you skip and you come this way and continue your measurement. Okay, hopefully that's clear. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these 2 points. This is my bust measurement, where I placed my bust measurement, and where I placed my waist measurement. I'm going to connect these 2. So that's it. So now we're also going to impute the body measurements in front, in our front bodies. So for our front bodies, what we're going to do is we're also going to take our bust measurement, divide it by 4. So 37 divided by 4, as we said earlier, is 9.25. So also on the front, we are going to be placing that measurement on the chest line. Note, not on the bust line, but on the chest line. Okay, so we'll take 9.25 That is after dividing our bust by 4. 37 divided by 4 is 9.25. So I'll place that measurement here on my chest line. Okay. So also on the front waistline, also, I'm going to take my waist measurement, which is 28. I'll divide it by 4, and that gives me 7. Now note what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same thing I did for the back waist. Okay, where I had the dart. So I'll start from my CF to measure. Okay, measuring from my CF, and I'll measure all the way to where my dart begins. Okay, I will note that place, hold it, take it to where my dart ends, and continue my measurement. Okay, so now I'll mark 7. You see? So now we're going to connect. I'm going to connect this point to where I marked my bust. Okay, so now we imputed our measurements for the front and the back bodies. And at this point, I know you're probably wondering, why is the side of the front and the side of the back not equal? You can see the side of the front is longer than that of the back. Don't worry, I got you. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to be doing our side darts. Okay, so watch me now. So to do our side darts, we're simply going to take the difference between our front waistline and our back waistline. So for our front waistline, our front shoulder to waist, like I told you earlier, is 18 inches, and my back shoulder to waist is 15 inches. So I'm just going to subtract 18 minus 15. So that's, I'm subtracting my back shoulder to waist from my front shoulder to waist. So you do the same with your own measurements. Okay, so you take your front shoulder to waist, and then you subtract your back shoulder to waist from it. So 18 minus 15 would give me 3 inches. So here's where I'm going to mark the 3 inches. I'll measure these 3 inches from here. So I'm going to measure from here. Okay, from here, that is where my bust line cuts through the side, my side front. So I'm going to measure downwards. Okay, and I'm going to mark 3 inches. Okay, so now I'll connect this to my bust point. And that's what we have. Yeah, so now I'm going to divide this space here, these 3 inches. I'm going to divide it by 2, and that is about 1.5 when I divide what I have here. Okay, so depending on what you have, depending on the difference between your front and your back, it could be 2 inches, it could be 1, it could be 1.5. You just divide that by 2. Okay, that's after marking your side darts. So I'm just going to draw a broken line that connects from this side all the way to the bust point. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to slightly extend this line just a little bit. Just going to extend it outwards a little bit. Okay, so now we want to close up these darts. In order to make this side and this side equal, in order to make their lengths equal, we would have to close this dart up. So how are we going to do that? This is what we'll do. First, I'll go to my shoulder. That's my shoulder, my front shoulder. And then I'll measure what I have there. I have about 4.75. And then I'll fold it into 2. Okay. Then I would now mark what I have when I fold it. And that's my midpoint. Okay. So now, this midpoint which I have, I'm going to connect it all the way to the bust point. Okay, so here's what we're going to do it. Okay, so you see what I did? I drew a line from here, connected it to this shoulder, please. Okay, so now I'm going to just cut my patterns out. I'll cut out my back pattern and cut out my front, and I'll show you what we need to do next. Okay, now so this is my back pattern, and I've already cut out the armhole, follow the curve and cut out the armhole already. So I actually cut out the neckline too, but I wanted you to see it so that you can know how to cut it out. Okay, so now I'm going to be cutting the shoulder, following the shoulder slope. Okay, so now I'm going to be cutting this line, not from this CB, but from here. Okay, this contour line all the way to the neckline. Okay, so that's our back bodice. So now we're going to continue working with our front bodice. We're not done with our front bodice yet. So to finish up with our front bodice, I would have to cut out the neckline, cut through this shoulder slope, and then the armhole. Then I'll show you what I'll do next. So I'll just cut this out. Okay, so I've cut the armhole, cut out the neckline, cut out the shoulder. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is we are going to cut through this line. Okay, remember how we got this line? We divided what we have here by 2, and then we'll mark the midpoint, and I drew this line from here all the way to the bust point here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut through this line. Okay, so let's do that. So I've cut through this line all the way to my bust point. Okay, so now I'm going to fold in this side dart. Can you see what I'm doing? I've folded this in. So now I'll take my tracing wheel. Okay, I'll start from this point here, and I'll trace all the way to where it meets this line, where the line breaks. Okay, so I'll just trace it. So now I'll take my pencil, and then I would connect from here down to where I traced, and then I'll extend that line all the way to where it meets this center line, this line that divides my side darts. Okay, and then now I would draw a line from here also that connects to this center point. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like when we fold it back. See? It just blends in nicely. So I'll use my marker so that I will highlight the lines and you can see it clearly and see what it looks like. Yeah, so this is what we have. See? Nice and smooth. So when you transfer your pattern to a fabric and then you close up this dart, you see that it's going to match up with the side of the back. The side of your front now matches up with the side of the back. I'm just going to show you so you can see it, okay? See what we have now? See? They match up. So I'm just going to cut out these excesses and we'll be left with our front bodice. I'm going to cut out these parts and I'll cut out the little excess we have on our center front. Okay guys, so this is what my bodice looks like. This is my back block and this is my front block. Okay, so this seems to have a lot of steps and seems a little bit difficult, but I promise you it's not difficult. All you need to do is watch this video over and over again and try to practice. Eventually you'll get a hang of it. Thank you guys for watching.